It's rude to talk about how much people make in personal finance. It's rude for men to be talking about women's issues. Apparently, I didn't get the memo because that's exactly what I'm discussing. Hello there, everyone. It's Nat here, aka the Wolf of Watertown. And as always, I have a good one for you guys today. I'm going to be talking about Roe v. Wade getting overturned. I don't care what your religious standpoint on the issue is. I don't care what your political grounds are. What I'm specifically going to be focusing on is the exact data and statistics that come along with it. What we're going to focus on is how this decision affects the economy. We're going to look at the micro and macroeconomics of the situation and see how it will directly affect everyday people and the United States economy as a whole. So without further ado, let's begin. The Supreme Court's decision to overturn Roe v. Wade is without a doubt going to cause a lot of financial hardship for a lot of women out there. This is especially going to be true for women that are already experiencing extreme financial instability. So throughout this video, I'm going to explain what all those reasons are and how they compound on each other to make someone's situation worse. So we already know about the financial hardships. There's going to be a restriction in the ability to attain higher education. Then we have the ability or inability to move up the socioeconomic ladder. We'll also look at how this will affect the workforce and increase the need for government support. All the sources I used to make this video is going to be posted in the bio below. So first, I looked at data from the Turn-Away study. This study was conducted in the University of California, San Francisco. This study revealed that household finances were the major driver for people that were looking to terminate unwanted pregnancies. Then I looked at data from the National Bureau of Economic Research. The data there showed that most women that were looking to terminate an unwanted pregnancy had an income that was below the national poverty line. For a family of two, that's an income of less than $19,000 per year. And just in case you haven't been keeping up with everything else that's been going on in the United States within the last few months, current rents have currently soared over $2,000. So this means that a family of two that lives below the poverty line would not be able to even afford rent, let alone rent and a child. And in case you were wondering, the poverty line for a single individual person is just under $14,000. There was a study done throughout a 10-year time frame that tracked a group of 1,000 women. They were all looking to get abortions. Some of them got them and some were denied. The study showed that those women that were denied the right to terminate their pregnancy had a higher rate of poverty. They also had a higher unemployment level and also the higher need for government assistance, directly affecting their economic well-being and any potential prospect for success that child would have. So a thought that a lot of people might have is, well, if someone made a bad decision, had a child, they need to suffer the burden of that responsibility. Or better yet, you're sitting here wondering, well, this is all fun and dandy, but how does it affect me? And I'll get to that in a second. But first, I want to build the data and statistics upon each other so I can paint a better picture for you to actually understand how this will directly combine and directly come into affecting your personal life. So back to the data we go. 60% of women that are looking to get an abortion are already mothers. So now let's think about it. If you're a mother already and you have another child and you already live below the poverty line, how is this going to shape out? At this point, you're going to need to find how they're going to balance work and motherhood simultaneously. And this is where a lot of studies have shown that limiting or restricting a woman's ability to an abortion will affect both that individual and the economy at large. If more women are in the workforce and we have more women seeking higher education, that greatly affects their earning potential. This keeps a lot more people out of poverty and out of the need of government assistance. With a study that tracked over 1,000 women for a 10-year period, these were the actual results. And I bet you could already guess what they were, but I'm going to give it to you anyways. Those that were turned away experienced much higher rates of household poverty. They were unable to cover their basic living expenses. They had lower credit scores, yet they had more debt. They also had much higher rates of bankruptcy and evictions. They also looked at these women that were denied the right to terminate both before and after having a child. There was a 78% increase in the amount of debt these women had after pregnancy as opposed to before. There was an 81% increase in public financial records that included bankruptcies and evictions. And it showed that financial distress continued for at least 5 years after the birth of the actual child. Okay, so now let's think about it. How does this affect the economy as a whole? Studies have shown that state-restricted abortions has cost the American economy over $105 billion per year. $105 billion? That sounds absurd. That's not true, Nat. But it is. It's very, very true. Now, let me walk you through it. Let's think about it. What happens when a woman gets pregnant and goes full term with the child? Labor force participation takes a big dip that way. And then you couple that with more time off and more turnover because people are just leaving their employment. The Institute for Women's Policy Research also looked into this and thought, what if all state restrictions on abortions were completely eliminated? What would happen then? Now, this study took women between the ages of 15 and 44 years old. Now I understand this isn't really realistic because not every 15-year-old woman is going into the workforce. But whatever, let's just play along with it. This predicted about 505,000 additional women being added into the workforce. And this was surprising to me because it calculated that their combined earnings would be over $3 billion per year. Now, women that are already employed would be making $101.8 billion annually. Right now, the pattern appears to be that a lot of red states are going to ban abortions flat out, while the blue states are going to have some restrictions but aren't going to flat out eliminate it. However, it's important to note that some of those blue states that have certain restrictions or limitations on abortions also do suffer economically when it comes to this. Another argument that I've heard often from a lot of people when it comes to the topic of women terminating their pregnancies is that taxpayers have to pay for this expense. However, the fact of the matter is taxpayers subsidize for only 24% of all abortions in the United States. And you might think that's already a big enough percentage, but if I break it down to you, you'll understand that in real life, it's really not as big as you might think it is. Medicaid-funded abortions are already very uncommon to begin with. There are currently only 17 states that actually do this. And one of those states is actually an outlier, and that state happens to be South Dakota. In South Dakota, they'll only pay for life-saving abortions. That means the mother or the child, someone is in danger of dying if the termination does not occur. The other 16 states where you can use Medicaid to terminate a pregnancy will only do it for these certain reasons. First and foremost, the woman has to be in a low income bracket. That means they're already struggling financially, and with a child, that would just make their situation worse. So first, the framework is established that the woman seeking to terminate their pregnancy is in a low income bracket. But it has to be a situation where the woman's life is actually in danger from giving birth. Second, the woman had to have been raped. I'm going to say that because you can't say that R word on YouTube. And third, it has to be a case of incest. So the woman first meets a low income frame, and then they have to fit one of those three criterias in order to be funded by Medicaid in order to terminate the child with taxpayer dollars. So bottom line up front, if a woman is terminating a pregnancy and is being funded or paid for by taxpayer dollars, that's because something tragic or very drastic happened in order for those funds to be applied to the termination. However, if they're getting it on their own free will, more than likely the woman will be paying for it with either their own insurance or out of pocket. So if we really think about it, the only time that taxpayers are really taking money out of their pocket to fund abortions is for very drastic situations. But what exactly happens when we prevent these women in these gruesome situations to not be able to terminate their pregnancy? There's a lot of statistics and data that shows that children that come up from this type of environment are more likely to commit crimes, more likely to get pregnant at a young age, more likely to drop out of school, just more likely to be a burden to society as a whole. As a matter of fact, The American taxpayer pays about $80 billion to the prison system alone each year. Overturning Roe v. Wade and giving it to the states to decide doesn't necessarily do anything good for the United States at all. Those women who can afford to have a child or who can afford to terminate a child will simply move out of state if their state doesn't allow it, go to another state, and still go forward with the procedure. However, it's those women who can't afford to actually move out of state in order to go and follow on with the procedure that's really going to be the biggest burden to the United States. So what's going to happen is women that are close to or below the poverty line who are either raped, incest, or like there's a great detriment to their health by having a child are going to be forced to give birth in those red states. So one, those specific states are going to take a big hit in their economy because that's going to eliminate a lot of women from the workforce, which is going to greatly impact their economy. Two, in 10, 20, 30 years, you're going to see an increase in crimes, an increase in all the other things that seriously detriment the economy and the community, society as a whole. And what's going to happen when those kids that come from either single mother households, from below the poverty line, grow up, commit a crime, go to jail, go to prison, whatever the case may be, what do you think is going to happen then? Taxes. Taxes is what's going to happen. Taxes will go up, which who pays for those? You and me. So we're going to be funding children, well now adults, that their parents didn't even want. I know it sucks to say, but it's the truth. And also, until that child finally hits 18, most of these women are going to be on government assistance. And at that point, it's not even government assistance. It's going to be government support. Because as I mentioned earlier, these women who are below the poverty line can barely even afford rent. So they're going to need full-blown support from the government in order to support their child to the age of 18. And then just going by statistics, most of these kids are going to end up in horrible situations. So what's going to happen then? The taxpayers are going to have to support these children even more when, again, full-blown adults in the prison systems and all these psych wards, all the crazy things that we wish didn't exist but do. So regardless of what your religious beliefs are, whatever your political lines are, I don't think it really matters. I think we all care about saving money and doing what's best for ourselves and also what's best for the United States as a whole. At the end of the day, let them choose. It's none of my business. It's none of your business. But the minute it starts affecting me personally, that's when the problem arises. This is a really serious topic, and I hope I didn't offend anyone. I was really just trying to put out the facts and statistics and dive into it in order to properly analyze. And as always, make sure to subscribe and like and share this video. Let's spread the word. Let's get a discussion going, and I'll see you all next week. Peace.